No, I don't agree with Stephen A. Smith about Trump using the trying to come after people in the basketball league and all that stuff to get revenge. First of all, Trump wasn't involved with the FBI, but he put an FBI person in charge when he became president, who is going to try to keep real laws. So that I agree with the crackdown on the mafia. I agree with because mafia is connected to gangs and cartels, and they kill people. They kill people who are innocent. They kill people they don't like. They kill people with fentanyl. They do all that kind of stuff. And so the NBA we can't allow the NBA to use sports to, first of all, make them fake. We can't allow them to give in to the mafia and have them rigging games just because the Democrats have made the NBA is scared to speak up about anything normal. So, I mean, when have you ever heard the NBA players speak up and say it's okay, I should be allowed to talk religion if I want to? Unless it's for Islam or some false religion. But then they support all the people that silence any proven God, the only proven God that rose from the dead, right? So they're scared to speak against pro-life. They're scared to speak for anything. They're scared to say they would ever even consider anything human or friendly toward a Republican candidate. They think the Republicans. I don't know what they think. They're kind of weird. That especially if you're black, it's weird. Just if you hate slavery and you're black and you claim to hate slavery, it's weird to support the Democrat Party who ran slavery. It's weird to support the Democrat Party who created the KKK. But they have lied and insinuated that the reason the Republicans are patriotic is because they claim they're patriotic for supporting America, which is supposedly a slave nation, but there was half of America that was a slave nation, and that was the Democrat half. So the Democrats have had a monopoly in media and done all that stuff. But no, I don't agree with Stephen A. Smith. We have to crack down on people who are stealing all kinds of money from people, not just a little bit, especially the mafia and them rigging games. We don't go to watch sports to see a game that's rigged or where somebody's faking an injury, like Terry Rozier allegedly did. We don't want people gambling and killing people over ball games, and because they lost a dumb bet, and not just that, but they were cheated out of it. So these guys, they're getting caught before somebody in the mafia kills them for cheating in the first place, because somebody will kill you real easy if you lose all your money. If you trick them out of money, and especially if it's a few $1,000,000 or $1,000, a few $100,000 or whatever, but sometimes $200, somebody will kill you over that. And these mafias and then the gangs that like to gamble that used to do it before it was legal. So gambling became legal, but it's very popular amongst gangs and stuff. They steal from drug addicts all the time. They steal from drug addicts. They empty their entire bank account. They give them a $10 piece of rock or powder or something, and then they get in their face and intimidate them and take their debit cards or rush them to, they act like they owe them or something, and they go drain their entire bank account. And they do it to people by the hundreds, and that's extortion. And then there's no defense for them because everybody thinks a drug addict just spends all their money on drugs. So these guys are greedy, but then they go and they take that money and they go gamble with it, hoping to hit it big. And that's I always have wondered why they're always broke, and I figured that out after a while. These guys that steal, $1,000 at a time from people, and they do it once a day almost from people a lot of times. It depends, I guess. I guess there's not always people available like that, but there are always. If they're not available, they'll just go put a woman in the street. The women can bring in money. They give her some free drugs and put her in the street. That's what they do, right? And so once they crack down on drugs, they'll probably do more of that. But they'll maybe get caught easier, right? So they'll use women to bring in money. Sometimes the woman's the one that likes doing that, actually, too, but not always. So you can't put a man in the street and tell him to make money. He'd have to do it for stealing wise or hustling and talking people out of money. They do that, but they have them go panhandle, and then they confiscate their money. The drug dealers confiscate the panhandlers' money. They extort their money, put them back in the street. Maybe give them some fake drug or something, right? So these guys are greedy, and they're used to getting stuff. And so if Trump stops a lot of the drug flow, a lot of these guys are going to try to do different things like that. Hopefully they'll quit and find another job, But I don't, people like that, you can't have it take over the NBA. So it's not, I'm glad that they're fixing it because I don't want to be watching a fake. Most fans that are really true fans of the NBA, we don't want to see fake games. We don't want to see people faking injuries for the mafia. We don't want the mafia involved in that. Get out of it, you know. We don't want that baloney just because you want your wallet filled up to steal from somebody else. So this is not any kind of revenge game for Trump. And by the way, Letitia James, the lady that tried to take Trump's property, that's not legitimate. He's already paid for his property. The bank agreed to a loan. Y'all try to say that, well, the loan wasn't an exact amount of what we value the place at. That's your opinion, what you value it at. And that's the state. The state's not supposed to interfere with that. They may change that rule to give him a felony. So most of the felonies, they made up or changed the rule, or changed the law to try to give him a felony because that's what the Democrats do. That's exactly that. All the folks that are tricked by the Democrat Party and by black racists, black Islamic racists, Islamic blacks who claim that Islam is a black religion when it's an Arab religion, but they claim that just because they want to call Christianity a white supremacist religion, and it's not a white supremacist religion. Well, they all do. I forgot my point, but they have teamed up with people like Letitia James and stolen a lot with the Democrats and put a lot of people in jail innocently the way they tried to put Trump in jail. And you should recognize that. We've seen that from the old movies where we see people get set up to go to jail by the KKK and stuff like that. You've seen that shown trying to bring people awareness, but you've pointed at the wrong people. It's the Democrats who did it, and you can see them do it to people, whether it's against somebody who wants to teach thou shalt not steal. You want to call thou shalt not steal racist? And thou shalt not steal a white supremacist law? That's a law to protect your property. If you're a human being, it's a law to protect your property and to keep you from being robbed. And also to stop you from robbing somebody else. If you're going to rob somebody else, you pay them back. If you rob somebody, you have a debt now. You owe them. What you stole, you owe it back. In reality, you do, whether caught or not or whatever. And so they can forgive it, but they can't let you keep doing it. And if you keep doing it, then they're just your slave. The people you keep stealing from are your slave. And so people who claim they're against slavery but they're for stealing, they're for slavery. They're for making people their slaves that they steal from. And that's what they do. And so they've teamed up with the Democrat Party. If they're black, for instance, Black Islam is responsible for enslaving all the Nigerians. They're the ones, it's probably Black Islam, mostly Black Islamic facet, and which is Black Islam is not a black religion. It's defined, but they've adopted it in Africa. As a matter of fact, one of the first religions in Africa, and it was in Ethiopia, and it was that was there, that we know was there in some of the culture. I don't know how much of the culture, but Moses met his wife in Ethiopia. Moses, the guy who brought us the Ten Commandments from God, who has led the Egyptians, the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. His wife was from Ethiopia, and their family believed in the God of the Bible who gave us the Ten Commandments, already believed in that God before Moses met her, as far as I know. So that's rooted in Christianity, not Islam, by the way. So there could have been other stuff, but it couldn't be too much because Islam wasn't created till after Christ. I forget how long, 500 years after Christ, 700? Maybe not that long, but it was pretty long after Christ left the earth and everything that Islam was created by the Prophet Muhammad. It wasn't before that. And so whatever else, obviously in Egypt they had some, what were their gods? I forget. But during Moses' time, they had some different gods and things they worshiped. But that was a young religion. All those religions were young. They were new because they were worshiping false gods, like physical, it's like worshiping your ring or something. It doesn't make sense, right? And so they were worshiping Baal and stuff, I think it was, during slavery in Egypt. But they thought their gods had certain powers. And but that wasn't long after the flood. The only people left after the flood was Noah's family and his 3 sons and their families, and that was it. And so they all ascribed to Noah's religion. Noah, and so, but once they split, when God changed the language, then they started giving up on God. Even the Israelites, when they traveled with Moses, when Moses disappeared and went to talk to God in the mountains and pray to God, and he got the 10 Commandments, they got impatient and were like, "Where's Moses?" and all this. We're getting hungry or whatever. They started throwing parties and they started making false gods. They made a golden calf, and then Moses came down, and I think Moses destroyed it, or had Aaron destroy it or something. So he destroyed the calf. So they started trying to create a god to worship right there, right then and there, and they were the Israelites. That was the Israelites. And then that was destroyed, though. So, but anyhow, I kind of lost my train of thought. But the basketball I'm doing that a lot today. I did that this morning, and I'm doing it now. But I got to change my diet again. But yeah, I'm not as smart as Stephen A. Smith in that kind of way. But I know right and wrong. You know, that's not true. I do know my stuff with politics. I'm good with multiple choice. I'm not a good memory person. But when it comes to, I've studied. I got more packed in here than most people. I guarantee you that. That from what I've studied and observed and analyzed, and people they say I think too much. I've always been accused of thinking too much for years and years, right? And I'm glad I have thought too much. But even the problem is I don't have a good memory, but I have a good way of. I believe I know I have a good formula, thought process for how to figure stuff out and all that in a proper way. And seeking out the good stuff, seeking out the neighborly stuff. But you have to teach these things. You can't. It's not neighborly just to let people go around giving people fentanyl. Doesn't sound fair for me to stop them, to promote and say, I wish the police would get them. In this case, yeah, I wish they would stop the people that do fentanyl. All right, that's what police are for. The people who promote fentanyl to kill people. All right, so I understand that they got new forms of fentanyl. That's not as strong as the other, but it's still, some people will die from that even on the first time. There's certain people that built tolerance to it, and some people can tolerate it. I understand that's evolved in a sense but they've experimented on Americans with the first stuff, but didn't just experiment. They knew they had it in potency big enough to kill people. And so the NBA, anybody that supports the Democrat Party has supported fentanyl coming in and being trafficked here. And maybe they don't care because they're like, maybe all the Democrats vote because they're thinking, well, this is just going to kill a stupid addict. Some stupid addict will get killed by it. Maybe that's their goal. You know, who knows? The voters' goal. Maybe that's the way they look at it. And so that issue, they always brush it off and it's no big deal. But fentanyl, like they brush off the child sex trafficking issue like it's no big deal. When we open the borders, we're letting child sex traffickers in. All right, they're thinking, well, that could happen anywhere. Maybe they're thinking that, or it's no big deal. No, they're just lying because it's racist. But they know it's not a lie and racist to talk about fentanyl, because fentanyl, they've seen the effects of it. They know people who have been killed by it. They've seen it in the news in every city that somebody died from a fentanyl overdose. All right, and then. If you look at the stats, it's a lot more people than you think. It's a lot, and so it's an attempted genocide. It's what it is, and there are people that use drugs for the first time because they had a car wreck and broke their back, stuff like that, and they end up not getting the medicine they need, or it's not working good enough, and they have some strange pain, unusual pain, and that the doctor can't. The doctors can't diagnose every little pain, and they might think somebody's faking, but there are certain angles on your back and different things like that can create pain. And then there's some people that can fake it, sure, because they want pain medicine. So they feel they need pain medicine. So let's send them to hell, okay? That's what our society does, right? They try to give them hell on earth because they want a pain medicine. Well, you know what? So they don't think this one works, and I've heard people say they've tried fentanyl because this didn't work. I've heard them say that. So that's recent times because they've made safer forms. But you can't. I don't know why there are people. I've heard more people pro-pneumonia it the last year. People who came out of the hospital in pain and stuff. I've heard that, and they're probably trying to talk people into using stuff and think it's no big deal. That's the new thing now. So they've narrowed it down to where it's safer. They use it in the hospital apparently. For some things, they have a form they use, so they have safer forms. So why did they need to make fentanyl? It's a steroided. It's a what is it? Heroin, synthetic form of heroin. But they had methadone for that. That helps people get off heroin, right? Anyway, so I don't know why if you have methadone, why do you need something like fentanyl? But the problem is, I don't know the difference between those two, but they're both come from heroin. They're not from heroin, but maybe methadone is from heroin, and it's not just plain synthetic. Synthetic meaning they made it from chemicals and not a natural plant. And so, but I had heard that fentanyl is 100 times stronger than heroin, or it can be. And that's the thing. They can make it 100 times stronger, apparently, is part of the problem. Another part of the problem is when you have synthetic caffeine. I just ate, sorry. You have synthetic caffeine, which they have in Mountain Dew. It's not a good form of caffeine. That's good to get if you're going to get caffeine, you should get it from coffee or tea. If you get a caffeine pill or something, you should know it's an herbal pill made from usually green tea is the best form of caffeine. But those synthetic caffeines aren't as good. They have more danger to them because they're chemically created. Anyhow, but that's what you're involved in. When you're getting involved with mafia, they're mixed in with cartels and everything else. They support the whole thing. They support the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party supports the mafia. They support all these things. And so they support all those groups, and that's why they still have a following, and they want to bring in more confusion and more, so they have more power, because they actually like to kill people. See, they give, the weird part is, I'll just say, they give gay people the death penalty. They invite the Sharia law in from Islamic terrorist groups that adopted that. They invite the Sharia law, which kills gay people. And they claim to be the ones that love gay people, same-sex marriage. They promote same-sex marriage for population control to take over this country particularly, but everywhere they want to have population control. But then if you're gay, like the gangs are taught to call people punks who are gay, and they threaten to kill them all the time, you know. So, and the Republicans aren't threatening to kill gay people. They're not into killing gay people at all. So, but because if you crack down on that and you crack down on safety, and you always, guess what? Every time you try to tell people not to kill folks, the Democrat Party folks go, well, what if it was a pedophile? They're looking for a reason. Okay, we want somebody we can kill. So they want you to kill pedophiles. But the problem is they define sometimes a pedophile as somebody who's 18. Dating a 17-year-old, right? Stuff like that. And so if they labeled that, they're just going to, before they find out the truth and all that, they just want to hear that word, and they threaten to kill them and want to kill them because they just want a bunch of killers. And so, do I think people should kill pedophiles? It depends. I mean, I don't think so. I think they should go before court I think if somebody's going to be put to death for something like that, they should go to court, and the public should put them to death for everybody to see. For it, not just for you to go kill and have them disappear. I think they need to be made an example of, and if be killed, or if they want to have the death penalty. But if they didn't kill a kid, it's hard to say. I believe in an eye for an eye. If somebody didn't kill somebody, it's hard to give a death penalty for that. And I haven't really studied the ethics of whether you should kill a pedophile who's stolen the innocence of children. But most of them who do that kind of stuff kill the kid. That's the thing. They, kidnappings, and they kill them. Anybody who's a rapist, usually a real rapist who rapes people to hurt them, it's stealing is what it is. They're a thief. They're stealing something. They're taking their innocence away on purpose. They went to rape somebody, and they kill them. They're killers. So it's killing somebody is stealing their life. Murdering somebody is actually stealing somebody's life. So it's connected to thievery. Somebody who likes to steal, somebody who likes power and wants to take from other people. So it's not. So I haven't really analyzed that all the way through, because I'm always hearing how people. I just always hear people wanting to bring that subject up and wanting to kill folks. When I'm like, I just don't think there are that many folks that are into young folks. Who cares? Who wants to be into young folks? Most adults want to stay away from young folks if they're single and stuff. I think most adults just want to stay away from them and not be involved with young folks because that's trouble. They don't want to be a bad influence on young folks. That's me. I don't want to be around young people just because Well, I mean, in the church, I'm glad for. I want young people to hear church teachings. And I want them to hear all that. But me, I'm single. I don't care to be around young people. If I was ever out partying, I prefer not to be around young people. That's my preference. But but hopefully my party days are behind me. But completely. When I say party, uh, I'm not looking for. If I go to a party, I'm not looking for trouble necessarily. I'm trying to meet new people or whatever, make friends. But um, staying sober can be an issue for me. It's not an issue. I stay sober, 360 days out of a year, 350 days out of a year, we'll say. 350 days out of a year, and very periodically I go out, and that's maybe 10 times a year. So maybe 15 times a year, we'll say, in the past. But I want that 15 times to be going. And so, and those weren't planned times to go out. Those were times I got lonely, tired, or tired of whatever. Tired of hearing people talk bad about people all the time and all that kind of stuff without any redemption talk. So I believe in repentant thieves. I believe in letting repentant thieves have a chance. I believe in people who are repentant of whatever crime they did have a chance. But if they're non-repentant, then people can get picky about judging what's repentant and what's not repentant. But if they've shown remorse properly and they're not promoting that kind of stuff and saying, oh, it doesn't matter if they steal. If they're doing that, they're not repentant. If they're still promoting the same stuff they did, But anyway, so I don't know. That's not a subject I can assess right here and now. But that's who they're supporting. That's who the NBA is supporting. Are people in the NBA when they get involved in gambling. So gambling, I bet they're going to talk about getting rid of legal gambling now because it's easy to get a lot of mafias going to want to get involved into legal gambling. A lot of mafia, because that's what they do illegally. They're the main ones that have done it illegally for a long time. Those gangs of mafias and cartels, they like to gamble. So anyway, that's something the FBI probably ran into when doing research on a mafia group. It's not that they started even looking at the NBA. They probably did research on this mafia group that was gambling and just extorting people and maybe killed people, and they probably ran into this situation and just it came across them. But I think I even heard that's kind of how I heard some of it explained. But either way, if they went through the NBA, saw it in the NBA first, because it may have been obvious from that standpoint, because these are big name people. They could have come from that, but they've run into a bigger mafia network going on that's not run by the NBA, that has influenced the NBA. Okay, so you had a few people who they know the rules. They know they don't want to mess up their income. They have good income in the NBA, but it's probably people in their family, a cousin, sometimes a gangster cousin or somebody wants to, they're already, well, you're my cousin, come on, I need some money and this and that. And but they happen to be involved in the gang life, and maybe they've been robbed or had bad luck because of it, and then they just get desperate, and or they get greedy too. So they get in that lifestyle and they get greedy, and then I would think they probably talked in NBA. They talked their NBA family in, or NBA player family member or friend into that kind of stuff, because the NBA player, for the most part, they already got money and they don't want to lose it or take risks. So I would think somebody coerced them for the most part. But in my opinion, the Democrat Party puts them in that position. It won't let them hang around Republicans who don't do those things much. It's true. They don't. I mean, the Republicans can have an addiction issue or fall for the wrong woman and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to breaking rules, they're careful. Most Republicans don't want to take too many chances on that kind of stuff. So stuff you can get in trouble for, they like to be responsible, and they think, oh, that's bad. They're scared of it, But anyhow, and some rules seem unfair, so that's where it gets hard to say no to some things. But anyhow, yeah, I mean, I understand rules and all that, and on my ethics, I understand cracking down strong on drugs and all that in certain ways. But when it comes to it in real life, I'm not the guy that wants to enforce it too strong. But I do want to I want to be pushy about we should have the freedom of speech. We should be able to talk about this calmly and rationally. And you're not going to shut me up because there's other people I want to talk to about stuff and learn more about life and getting along, how we get along. And I think I want to leave a better world for the next generation. You're not shutting me up. So I'm strong about that. But when it comes to, and that doesn't turn out, I've been threatened because of that. But that's, I'm doing the friendlies. I'm the friendly one there on that. That's the friendly thing. That's the friendly way to do it. Talk, have diplomacy and everything else. That's the friendly way. But they want to fight. That's Democrats. They want to fight if you're going to have diplomacy, and if they don't like your view, they're going to fight instead of figure it out why they can't see some sense in certain things. Like, look, never mind. We won't go into that. I don't have time. But so the NBA has always pretty much sided for the longest with the Democrat Party. And it's like somebody's bullying them for them to be that dumb, really. I mean, to support fentanyl? Come on, you're supporting fentanyl, and it probably gets trafficked in through a lot of the people you don't talk about. You've never talked about the drug problem in America, not the drug problem, but gang violence. You've never, in my lifetime, I haven't heard any NBA players until now, until this came up with the gambling. I've never heard of them address gang violence or anything. And so, and then they always side with some crook fighting with the police who just robbed a store. Threaten the store with a baseball bat, store clerk or something. And then they fight the police. They get hurt. And I've heard even LeBron James defend, oh, what did the police try to get them for? All they did is rob the store. Well, we got to stop people. The stealing has to become more unpopular than drugs. But drugs should become unpopular too, except for the natural plants. I think they should legalize trees, teas, and leaves. Trees, leaves, and teas. And and then don't charge $400 to get a license to use the tree, the leaf in a tea. To smoke it, though, I think they should make it harder to smoke. I think they should make it harder to get in snorting form. Pill form should be the preference over smoking and snorting. The pill's safer, but it's easy to take too much of a pill, too many pills. But however, it doesn't go straight into your bloodstream. It slowly absorbs into your bloodstream if you take a pill. So that's the safer form if you're going to get a concentrated form. The concentrated form is a stronger form of the plant. Squeezed out might be like 100 leaves or something, right? Concentrated form. But tea is only 2 to 3 leaves, right? And so you drink it as a tea and it absorbs slowly, and it has the natural plant stuff in it that's appetite suppressants and things. It has appetite suppressants and has more than one compound in it, like the coca leaf. Kind of like chocolate has theobromine to counteract the effects of the caffeine. So you got caffeine and theobromine. Tea has caffeine and theanine, which is a natural protein or amino acid, and it helps counteract the effects of the caffeine. And it's actually a healthy in a pill form. The theanine is. So it's anyway, but it's good for stress. But the tea, too much tea itself, you get tannins. Tannins are good for you in small doses, but they collect on your injuries and your joints and stuff, and then you get sore joints if you do too much tea. If you had injuries, you'll notice. I've noticed it when I do it. But so it's coffee's got a laxative, and it's too acidic. It builds your body heat up. It's not the most comfortable drink. You don't feel the most comfortable after drinking it, but it gives you a little pick-me-up, right? So it is a drug. And so, but other stuff they made illegal, you can do in the same kind of drink form, and it's not that dangerous. Not that I'm not saying to do it. I'm saying abstinence is best, but it's better. If that's what's out on the street, that's way better than the concentrated forms, especially, the snort forms are not good. Those are swindler forms. The snort form and the smoke forms are swindler forms, and it's never good for your lungs. There's nothing good for your lungs except oxygen, all right, pretty much, except for maybe the asthma inhalers, but that's not good to do too much of it, right? It's good for some kind of effect it has real quick to open things up. Anyway, I don't know how that works, but gotta go. But no, I don't agree at all about turning on Trump like that. I always thought Stephen Smith possibly trying to gain more followers by showing he's independent, coming out as a strong independent, and then all of a sudden he's going to use it to sway people back because there's some things I don't agree with him on. However, I do like some of his views, a lot of his views. I don't know for sure. I can't conclude that about him.